We were talking to one of our new brothers who recently joined the boot camp, and he was talking about, hey, I've been doing good avoiding the porn, but masturbation is still a problem. Here we go
What's up,
again.
bro?
Here we go again. The rustling of
You
the
again.
papers. Here we go again, signaling the kickoff of another episode. Welcome, brothers. Yeadon, good to see you.
Good to be here, man. Good to be
Yes, sir.
here.
Yes, sir. Brothers, it's good to have you back with us here today, or maybe it's the first time you're joining us here on a Porn to Purpose podcast episode. Either way, we welcome you, and we're honored to have you here. We got a good one today.
Yeah.
We got a good one today that addresses a very perplexing question. I know it's a question that's come up in my recovery journey. How about you, Yeadon?
Yes.
Yes. That is, man. I'm not even horny, and yet I'm watching porny.
Why
I'm not
do
even
I watch porn when I'm not even aroused? When I'm not even
exactly,
just
exactly,
it's just a Thursday afternoon at 3:00. I got nothing better to
exactly.
do.
Or as we've talked about here, I've told myself, like, I'm really not even like, there's a part of me that knows I don't even want to take this action, but I end up doing it anyway. Like, what's that about?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Um, and so the message today, brothers, that we want to offer you, and we're going to dig into this conversation here a little bit today. The message is that in many cases, it's not just about sex. You're not just watching porn because you're sexually aroused. You're watching it because you're stressed, you're bored, you're tired, you're lonely, you're angry, you're feeling isolated. There's anxiety present, right? You're emotionally off center, right? And you have developed this coping mechanism of pornography to meet these needs and emotions, right? And it's a faulty coping mechanism, is what you're likely finding, right? Or what
Mm-hmm.
this episode might help to illuminate for you, right? So
Absolutely right.
that's the message in a nutshell, brothers. It's that's the reason you're using porn, because you're using porn, right, to meet other underlying needs. And we're going to dig into that conversation today.
Yeah,
Right.
if you've ever been online, opened a porn tab, scrolled, clicked, and then half of you like, what the hell am I doing?
Right.
This is for you. This is for you, man.
Yep. One of our brothers over in another community, Eldon, Eldon Yeadon.
Oh yeah.
He dropped a recent quote by Thich Nhat Hanh, and it talked about how we go to our coping mechanisms: food, drugs, sex, screens, alcohol, whatever it might be, right? In order ultimately to not feel, right? We're running away from what's really going on inside of us. And as we mentioned on the midweek huddle call yesterday with our P2P brothers, what's often going on is that we haven't developed the awareness around what's actually going on underneath the surface, or we haven't developed the bandwidth to be able to deal with what's
Right.
going on underneath the surface. So let's go ahead and begin digging into some of these myths, if you will, Yeadon. How about it?
So like first thought, like what we're talking about is these deeper emotional drivers behind the addiction. Why? There's nothing to do with lust, nothing to do with sex, everything to do with what we are avoiding. Matt and I, we've done an episode in the past where we talk about the myths of porn. So the first thing is we got this misconception that we all fell into at some point. I know for me, yes, it's just I just have a high sex drive. I just have a high sex drive, right? High libido, watching porn, it's a myth. It is a myth. It's not true. You've been sold a bill of goods by the industry saying, oh, use this to manage your high sex. You're like, no, that's not what's going on, man. Let's call it what? Let's call a shovel a shovel. It's emotional avoidance.
That's it.
Right? Think about times where you've been in the weeds, you've been on the websites, you're watching the porn, and you're feeling and you were feeling numb, stressed out, afraid, anxious, nervous, right? Maybe you got to maybe like I remember when I was in college, we got tests coming up. I was stressed out all the time, carrying a full workload, part-time job, right? Stress coming out of my ears, papers to write, quizzes to study for, all that kind of thing, books to read. I was stressed out.
Yep.
And my brain knew I was emotionally strung out, not survivable to live in that emotionally frazzled state. Brain's like, hey man, we can get this dopamine hit on the web. And we
Absolutely.
can feel better. We can push all those negative emotions to the side. We can numb the pain from that just so we can function.
Absolutely.
So, right, you don't need sex. You need connection. You don't
Yeah.
need porn. You need connection. You don't
Yeah.
need release. You need relief,
There it is.
right?
There it is. Yeah.
That's that's the kicker.
Yeah.
Relief from the emotional anguish, from the anxiety. And let's be
Yeah.
real, life is filled with anxiety at every
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah.
Bills to pay, relationships to navigate, pain, stress, whatever it is, filled with emotional anxiety. And
Mhm.
we use porn to assuage that anxiety. We use it
Yes.
as our coping mechanism,
Yeah.
right? But if we go a little bit deeper, Matt, talk about what's really going on.
Absolutely. And yeah, so I'll tie into your point and I'll
Yeah.
slide to the next one here is that, I've talked to so many guys, right? Maybe they're looking at joining us in the boot camp or the Porn to Purpose community. We're kind of on that initial conversation, or maybe we're having that kind of initial assessment conversation that we have whenever a man comes into the community and ask, like, like, what do you think's going on, brother? Like, tell me a little bit about yourself and your history. And very often the conversation is, you know what? I just have a higher sex drive than my wife, you know? I've got a higher libido. I could go every day. She's just not as interested as I am. So that's the excuse, and that's also often the justification. But to Yeadon's point, um, very much more often, what's actually going on, as Yeadon spoke to here, is that there are underlying emotional needs, right? Unmet emotions and needs, which are underneath the surface, and we adopted pornography as this coping mechanism, as I've kind of laid out at the beginning of the episode. We use this idea: hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? I know for me, when I feel the impulse to want to act out or grab the junk food, right, or pick up the screen or whatever the thing might be, very often that feeling is for me accompanied by fatigue. I'm emotionally tired, right?
Matt, with that acronym HALT,
Mhm.
I think I heard you say something about this earlier today somewhere. Maybe it was in one of the Voxer check-ins, Voxer
Yeah.
chats that we have for the support. Somebody said hurting, angry,
Yeah.
lonely, tired, and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that hits so hard
Mhm.
when I'm hurting on the inside, or even physical pain.
Yeah.
If there is pain, if there's hurt going on, dude, I don't want to feel pain. I
Yeah.
want to escape the pain, get away from the pain.
Yeah. Yeah. But the problem is, as actually I was going through some of our previous episodes just today, is that porn almost works, as Yeadon
Yeah.
always says, and we always quote Dr.
It
Eddie, who
almost
kind of gave
works.
us that idea.
Almost
Porn almost
works.
works, and temporarily, right? It does assuage the pain, but the problem is it actually comes back, right? Many-fold, and actually compounds the pain.
With a
You know?
vengeance.
Yes, yes.
Shows back with a
So,
vengeance. So what do we
so,
do?
um, so we cultivate these skills, and I'd love to invite you to kind of talk about some of the ways in which we cope. But what I want to give you guys before we do that, and kind of maybe to tie into maybe where we're going to take this conversation next, is I want to invite you, brothers, to give yourself a gift. We were talking to one of our new brothers who recently joined the boot camp yesterday, and he was talking about, hey, I've been doing good, avoiding the porn, but masturbation is still a problem, right? And I said, that's awesome. That's awesome that you're making that progress. Okay, because porn is definitely the more toxic thing, but the chronic masturbation definitely still poses its issues. And what I said was, if you're going to masturbate, go ahead and masturbate. Like, you'll you can grow in that way. But at least if you're going to masturbate, or brothers, if you're going to view porn, at least give yourself the gift of awareness. And if you're gonna go to porn or masturbation, give yourself the gift of tuning in for just a moment with that light of awareness and say, okay, I'm feeling triggered to act out, right? To go to porn. What else is present here? Am I
Mm-hmm.
hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Am I bored? Am I seeking connection? Am I seeking fulfillment, or maybe a sense of satisfaction or validation, right? Or significance in my life, right?
Yeah.
We could go deep layers on what's really going on beneath the surface. So that's what we want to like give you, like, what else am I feeling? And maybe what am I trying to feel, or what am I not trying to feel? Like, what am I maybe trying to escape from? Right?
Yes. Yes. What is really going on? It's that pause between the stimulus and the response.
Begin to bust
And
that myth that it's just a sex
yeah,
drive thing. Yep.
yeah, it's not a sex drive thing, man.
Yep.
You've been sold a bill of goods with that. We all have. We've all been sold a bill of goods with that. So if when you get there and you notice, oh, I'm really hurting because I had a big fight with my wife. I'm really hurting because my in-laws hate me. I'm really hurting because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. I'm really hurting because I got a deadline on Friday and I'm behind and I can't go to my kid's tennis match, or I can't go to the wrestling championship, or like all these different things going on. When you get space inside, you can, when you're aware, then you can start asking yourself, what can I do next? First thing is really building the muscle of learning to sit with the discomfort. Our brain is wired to recognize threats and run. That's how we've been wired since formed out of the dust of the ground. It's like, oh, there's a threat. There's a saber-toothed tiger. That's dangerous. I need to get away from it. I need to avoid that. And our brain makes us feel like we're under attack. It says, hey, this is dangerous. We need to avoid this because it's too painful. But the reality is, there's no saber-toothed tiger waiting in the room to kill you. You're not at physical risk, right? You're not in danger. It's just the story in your head and the emotions rising up. Some things that have been a game changer for me. I learned them in the Liberation Boot Camp, practiced them on the regular. Things like breath work, learning how to regulate my nervous system. Yo, it's amazing the actual high that you can feel just from breathing with intentionality. Get on YouTube, look up, 5-minute breath work, do a breath work exercise, regulate your nervous system that way. Maybe cold shower, right? Okay, cold shower is kind of the stereotype thing. Oh, you need to go take a cold shower, bro. Like that kind of shock to your nervous system is like, oh, okay, cold shower, yeah, feels bad at first, but sit with it for 90 seconds and your body regulates. It's like, that's just water. Maybe go for a walk, get outside, get a change of scenery, something to get the blood flowing, get the oxygen moving to help. Because what's going on is your nervous system is going nuts. Your brain is like, this is dangerous. There are activities you can do that will regulate your nervous system without acting out. Maybe it's prayer, maybe it's meditation. Reach out to a brother that you trust. Say, hey man, I'm feeling it right now. The addict is yelling at me. He's talking to me. I want to go in the. I want to grab my phone, lock myself in the closet, and deal with it.
Yep.
Like being able to say that out loud takes away a lot of the power of those urges, of that conversation happening in your brain. You can create micro rituals that bring peace, right? Maybe it's walking, music, journaling. In the Liberation Boot Camp, we teach the 4-rack formula, which is a step-by-step process. Like, hey, what's really going on here? It's the past was painful. I'm moving towards freedom. What am I really needing? What can I choose to do instead of porn? All these tools that I have now, to where when the emotions rise up, when the trigger happens, it's like, I know I can get a dopamine hit over there, but that path leads to pain and darkness. I don't want to go there anymore. I'm going to go this route. Yeah, it's more work. It's more work. You know what else is more work? Going to the gym and lifting heavy shit and putting it back down. But you ask anybody that lifts weights, they'll say totally worth it. And I'm telling you, this work is totally worth it, because over time, we have trained our brain to run from pain. It's this
Yep.
feedback loop. Our brain initially, first off, is like, hey, pain, no good. We got to avoid it. And as we enter that feedback loop of getting the quick fix that almost works, we reinforce it trying to escape from the pain. It's time to start training your brain to stand still, feel what you feel, and rise up and
That's it.
choose a new path.
That's it. So, like, I'd love to just jump in there and tag
Yeah,
onto that real
please.
quick, if I may, Aiden. So Yeadon's touched on a lot of excellent points here, and Yeadon, I feel like you are a man in the community that exemplifies this and embodies what I'm going to talk about here, in a really powerful way, and that is something that I spoke to yesterday on the midweek huddle call with our new brother that I was mentioning there earlier. We were talking about this conversation of porn, masturbation, etc., and the instinct, the impulse to want to still masturbate even though we're not looking at porn. And we got into this conversation of emotional intelligence, and that's a big like piece of the puzzle. It's like a big clue around what we're actually doing here. Like if we were to like encapsulate a lot of the work that we're doing here into one idea, it's this emotional this idea of emotional intelligence or emotional IQ. It's the ability
Mm-hmm.
to become in tune with our emotions, to learn to see and be present with what's going on, to actually feel what's going on for us, versus run away, to learn to be able to articulate it and saying I'm feeling this way, right? And to be able to sit with and develop the capacity. We talk about capacity and bandwidth to actually be with these
Yes,
emotions
yes.
versus run. And then finally, which is like the ultimate, I think, expression of the mature masculine is, can I learn to meet these needs in healthy ways that
Yes.
actually
Yes.
fill me up, that build me up, that meet the need versus just continue to hurt me, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're about here. So beginning to build that capacity and that bandwidth. And Yeadon spoke to the 4-rack formula, right? Like the 4-rack formula speaks to this very well. I've got it here in front of me. Remember the pain, refocus on the paradise, resolve to the commitment, reflect on what am I actually needing. This is like the process we teach in the boot camp. Number 5, ask yourself what else. I'm feeling this. What else is going on, or what else could I do to meet this need in a healthy way? And then finally, C, choose the new behavior. What's the new outcome that I'm
Yeah.
going to choose moving forward? We study G.S. Youngblood, right? Who wrote the book, the Masculine in Relationship, and he talks about one of the key qualities of the masculine, or the roles of the masculine, the healthy masculine, is cultivating this ability to respond versus react. The child feels the emotion. Yeadon has kids, right, and has an explosion, right, or many grown men do, right.
Yeah.
But as we develop the
Guilty is
emotional intelligence,
charged.
right, or the emotional maturity, over time we can learn to be present with the emotions and respond, right, in a healthy way versus react to them.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. Now it's game time. You've been
Yes.
sold the bill of goods. But the good
Yes.
news is you can still return that bill of goods.
Yes.
You can still return it and
Yes.
change your course direction. Matt, what can they do?
So, brothers, if this conversation is resonating with you here today, if maybe you've begun in your journey to notice, like, oh yeah, like I think I do notice that I have a tendency to maybe use porn at certain times of day, or when certain things are going on
Mm-hmm.
in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're beginning to draw the correlations, like, why am I using porn even when I know, like, logically it's not something I want to do, right? Maybe you're beginning to to connect some of these dots for yourself. And maybe this conversation is beginning to give you clues. Maybe like Yeadon and I, right? You've been trying on your own, right? For many years or maybe for a lifetime, like myself, right? Exactly. So if that's the case, brother, you don't have to do this alone, right? I know I struggled for myself for many years. I think Yeadon shares a similar story. I know he does, right? He's spoken to it here.
Decades.
Decades, right? And what I found was that I struggled on my own, right? And it was impossible on my own. And I didn't begin to really get traction until I got into community, right? Began to get around other men on this path and begin to follow a proven path and learn from others that are actively doing this work, right? So if you, brother, are finding yourself in a similar place and you're beginning to connect these dots and beginning to recognize, hey, I know I need to do this work. I know it's time. I know I can't do it on my own. I've tried on my own. We want to invite you to come check us out inside the P0rn to Purpose community. Go to p0rntopurpose.com and learn about what we've got going on inside the Liberation Boot Camp.
Yeah. You don't have to take our word for it. We got success stories from other men. Listen to their story.
You got a success story sitting right here in front of you. Our brother Yeadon came through the program several years ago himself, right? And is now a gleaming example, right, of this work inside the community, right? A man who's come through, he's the proof in the pudding, and living this work himself. So
814 days today.
there it is. There it is.
814 days today.
Right.
Can't stop, won't stop.
That's it.
All right, brothers. We love you. We want freedom for you because it's too good. It's too good out here to keep it to ourselves. Let's get free, let's get honest, and let's rise together.
Yes. Check us out, p0rntopurpose.com. Join us over in the P0rn to Purpose Facebook community. Subscribe to the podcast. We'd love to remain connected to you. We'd love to have a conversation with you, support you wherever you are in your journey. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon, brothers. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Yeadon, thanks for the conversation.
My pleasure,
Peace.
brother, as always.
Yes. Peace and power, my brothers.
Peace and power, man. Noble
We're
men.
noble men.